It's not my room. Okay, so our presentation, or our thesis statement, the paper that we're going to be working on, our focus is around the story of Red Riding Hood, and our thesis statement this paper will examine symbols such as the red hood, the forest, and the wolf that are found in varying renditions of Red Riding Hood, and explore how they represent the loss of innocence.
So our prospective audience, which we're not really going to include in the paper, but for the purpose of this, it's mostly geared towards like kids, or the most recent versions of it at least are, I mean, the oldest versions are mostly for kids, whereas the most recent are for like more like adults. Um, but the bias against our topic could be that since we're talking about the loss of innocence, people could kind of be like, how is it showing a loss of innocence? It's a fairy tale, you know, it's supposed to be uplifting and have a wholesome message. But this story is already not like most fairy tales in the fact that it doesn't have like a prince and there's no like love interest. So it's kind of like more focused on the morals of like, or rather like losing your morals, as when Red Riding Hood goes into the forest. Well, there's different symbols that we'll talk about, but yeah, so it's already like not like most fairy tales, and so that's how I would address the bias. And then source number 1 is by Anderson John, and in it talks about a lot of the symbolism of the basket. And so one of the quotes is, "The little Red Riding Hood of our collective imaginations is usually carrying a basket, but what she's really got is baggage, the kind of socio-sexual psychological baggage that has kept certain fairy tales and myths alive from one end of the media forest." So basically, he's going to be talking a lot about the symbolism of the basket, and some of the versions that we'll be talking about, some have in her basket is like wine, and then in other versions like is milk and cookies. So it could be like, you know, she's carrying her struggles, and like it could just represent like how it's a loss of innocence. She's going into this forest and with her innocence and like losing it and stuff. And then source 2 has the symbol of the forest, and one of the quotes that we would probably use is, grandmother's tale elements has, "There's no mention of the red hood or cape. The girl carries bread and milk to grandmother, and Wolf asks if she will take the path of needles and pins." So this one focuses more on how the symbolism behind the forest could be like going into, you know, dangerous waters and having to choose like difficult paths, and whether or not you can choose the right one and come out with your innocence still, or come out with having lost your innocence. So yeah, that's that one.
Okay, and source 3 is geared more towards feminism, and it's titled "Feminist Reworking of Folk and Fairy Tales" in Angela Carter's short story. And it's more focused on femininity in the contemporary society, and how it's increasingly associated with traits of docility, frailty, and beauty. And Red Riding Hood is represented as a sign of femininity in this one, and I guess that's one of the one of the contemporary issues in society today, and how they're like stereotyping women into these femininity traits that they should have in order to be a lady or a woman. And the source 4 is by Hayton Natalie, and this is it's pretty much the same line with the other one, and this is like this is more from the patriarchal view of most of the adaptations of Red Riding Hood, and how it's starting to negate the importance of the female quest. And this article focuses more on the unconscious appropriation. Every adaptation, which is often a series of adaptations to a specific culture, now it can be used as a medium of communicating. So these stories are, well, this article says that most of the stories are a form of communication, and how the story is presented is mostly geared towards, it's like a way of informing its audience of the society's issues, like modern society issues. So yeah.
Okay, so last two sources, source 5. The authors both are lecturers at University of Winnipeg. One has a focus on criminal justice studies and the other on women and gender. So combining those two together give us a good insight into a few of the different symbols through Little Red Riding Hood. And this one analyzes the characters as symbols, so the female characters and then also the wolf. And so these two help us focus on the innocence of females and what those symbols have in reference to that. And it gives us kind of a modern take on that with the criminal justice studies as well. And it also talks about films a lot, so helps us through that medium. The next one, source 6. He's a professor at Trinity College. Both of these ones are peer reviewed too, so give them a bit of authority. This one, he studies German histories, so where Red Riding Hood comes from, that Germanic European culture. He's able to give us a link between the wolf and the 3 female characters. So that's kind of where I'm kind of angling mine towards too, and just what influence those symbols have in Red Riding Hood. So yeah, we've run out of time pretty much.
Right.